if you're ever having a bad day, just remember that there are grown ass men who had voted for Kamala Harris. Like men with jobs and balls, supposedly, and allegedly testosterone coursing through their veins. These guys really woke up saying, who really inspires me for office? Commander in Chief? Kamala Harris. All right, now before I get into these scenes with her book interview, or one of them at least, if you did vote for her, let me know why. What was it? As far as I can tell, this day and age, it really just comes down to temperament. There's not a lot of whole changing of minds that really occurs anymore. So let me know why. But let's go ahead. I clipped a couple of scenes because as you might have imagined, it was just as unedifying as you probably would have guessed and suspected. So.
And you also know that I am the daughter of a mother who was a scientist. And my mother had two goals in her life: to raise my sister Maya and me, and to end breast cancer. And my mother, when we were growing up, used to go to this place that Maya and I only knew as Mommy is going to this place called Bethesda. Because you see, my mother was an advisor at NIH. And she would leave us in the Bay Area to go to NIH to work with scientists who have as their goal to alleviate pain and to uplift the human condition.
It is worth noting, I watched the whole video, so you don't have to, that she also alludes to religion, as if she herself was also a religious, godly woman. And then, but you have all this here, right? So it's worth noting, like the left, Democrats, people who voted for Kamala, it's funny because they look at science as if it has this default morally virtuous appeal to it, when it certainly doesn't. I mean, most Christians, to some degree, don't care about this point at all. Like they're hardcore Christians, to some degree, would even outright deny evolution. So it's just worth noting she's trying to have it both ways. You're either Gnostic, or you're religious, or you're atheist. And she really does try to have it every which way.
The point is that the guardrails have failed for the most part, except one guardrail, which is the people. And the power of the people to organize and not give up and pay attention to how we got here, see where we are now, and think about where we are headed, both in terms of whatever we can do to determine our destiny, but also to not repeat where we've been. And part of that requires that we understand the solution is not going to be the next election necessarily. It'll be part of it. We got to take back the House. We have to take back the House. We have to take back the Senate. But it's going to be more than that. And the solutions that we need are going to have to be about, yes, the immediate term, but also a reconstruction of how we've been thinking about how we end up in a place like this, and understanding it's about what happens at the local level, the statewide level, as well as what happens.
I mean, have you ever tried arguing with a woman about anything? Imagining trying to argue with a woman and she has the power of political office. Like, bro, what part of her actually inspired you? Was it the laugh, the word salads, or the way she talks like she's narrating an HR training video?
And by the way, did you see that Donald Trump just said, yeah, he's basically getting rid of free speech? Mm-hmm. He said it. Mm-hmm. He said a lot of things that he meant, including just that most recently. But here's what happened. When he, as thin-skinned as he is, could not take the criticism of a political satirist, mm-hmm. The people spoke with the power of the purse, and Jimmy Kimmel is back on that stage.
I think she's making up a whole lot of nothing here. All that really happened was that it's just a classic case of too soon. Like, it's a cliche for a reason. Just, that was a serious thing that just happened. Like, that someone died, and he was a really good man. And again, that's just another classic case of just twisting the narrative around. It is almost like low key saying, removing the weight of the gravity of what happened. Like that is another case of it. She hasn't said anything about what it was about. Just saying, oh, he's back, and we have done what we've done. Political satire, that's ridiculous.
What you thought was the most complex part of running for president? Was the time? Was it being a woman? Was it being a woman of color? What, from your perspective, was the most difficult parts of those 107 days?
Well, I've always been a woman.
Yes.
and a woman of color. So that kind of is.
See, does she want brownie points for that? For being a woman? For having a slightly different skin color? I mean, she's not like black, right? Like that's come on. Come on. And like the crowd and how she like presents it, it's like, oh, yes, yes. Get out of here.
It's about, yes, getting to know me and my background and what I've done, and the fact that I was elected district attorney for 2 terms as the first woman elected attorney general of the state of California, ran the second largest Department of Justice in the United States, second only to the United States Department of Justice. I was a United States Senator, second black woman elected in the history of the United States Senate, and I was the first woman vice president of the United States. So there are those things that I needed to make sure that people knew.
That is a decent resume, but go ahead.
But there, well, some people have actually said I was the most qualified candidate ever to run for president.
And the party really doesn't know why they lost men. Like seriously, we don't care about your accolades. We don't care about any of it. You know, you could throw a friar from Waffle House up there as long as he says the right shit. As long as he's telling me he's gonna help me. He points out my problems and says this is what I'm gonna try to do. She don't do none of that. She appeals to authority and presents this crap like she's some sort of savior for us. Get out of here. Get out of my face. Don't care. I don't care.
But for example, one of the things that I intended to do was, as the president, we then have the largest workforce, right, is the federal government. And I intended to figure out a way to reclassify the job descriptions by skill, not just by college degree. And then to challenge the private sector to do the same. Because I do believe, as we think about the future of work, that is how we should think, and not just think that only someone with a college degree has the skills to perform the job in a way that adds value to all of us.
See, she wants to have it both ways. Now I get it. Life can be a paradox. But the whole problem is she just appealed to all her credentials, all her accolades, her resume, right? And then she goes on to basically disavow the institution of higher education, which is what guys have been saying all this time. It don't make you that much smarter. It really don't. All right? Like, it don't take much to see bullshit.
The work that we wanted to do around $25,000 down payment assistance for first-time homebuyers, and I could go on and on.
Right.
It took time for people to hear those things. One of the things that was very popular, and we knew that, and every day it was gaining around people knowing about my policy, was around having Medicare cover home health care. It was very popular when people learned about it, because when my mother was sick, I helped take care of her. And I was blessed and fortunate enough to have a job where I could leave work to do that and get paid. But there are so many families, especially if you're in the sandwich generation, raising young children and taking care of an elder relative, that you just can't afford to do it. And my policy was to have Medicare cover it.
Yeah.
To be fair, this is probably the only point of contention which I don't have a rebuttal for. I do think healthcare is pretty harsh, whether you believe in free market healthcare or not. You know, it is a tough reality. But otherwise, that is pretty much the only thing that I think the Democrats have any angle on, and it's not even outside their wheelhouse. It's the typical virtue signaling, with just a little bit of more weight behind it.
My standard for myself has always been that I have to be flawless.
Mm-hmm.
I won't always be, and I know that. But I'm very clear about what my standard for myself has to be.
It was a great word.
Well, let
me
finish.
All right.
And I know.
Let me finish. Oh, you did that. Good.
And I know the standard by which I will be judged.
Right.
So, this connects to the question you asked me earlier. Mm-hmm. I'm very clear about that, and I'm sure it's a shared experience for many people here, which is we know the standard by which we will be judged, and just clear-eyed about that. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, that's the standard I hold myself to. I know I am not flawless, and I certainly am not perfect.
So that was her attempt at humility. It's kind of absurd and played out at this point. Yeah, I'm not nowhere near perfect, but pretty close.
So there are connections to be seen that one can argue pointed out to us had we at least more clarity around it from hindsight, that this is where it was going.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where we are. And it has been reduced to a level where there's really apparently no desire to have real discourse or debate based on merit and fact. Not to mention, as you and I have discussed extensively, the rampant amount of mis and disinformation
Right.
that is so very difficult to get in front of. Part of what I would offer all of us is to really reflect on the fact that there are many disagreements to be had by people that voted differently than us in that last election, but let's please not make an assumption that we're working with the same set of facts.
Forget facts. We're voting in totally different worlds. We're in totally different universes when it comes to people who voted for Kamala and people who voted for Trump. Like, we're in totally different wheelhouses. There is there is no bridging the gap no more. If anything about Charlie's passing has been clear, it's that. It is that.
Hello, Kamala. Well, I know that you're on stage with Kara Swisher, and she invited me to ask you a question. So, really, I want to know this. I debated Trump 3 times. You debated him once. He wouldn't debate you again. We beat him 4 times. Do you think we're the reason he is so unhinged today?
This is why, to me, it's so evident that the divide is mainly between the genders. Like, there are here's an example that I want to put cross by you. Like, there are dudes who are swole, jacked, with a muscle car, a motorcycle, right? But when push comes to shove, they acquiesce immediately, right? They're still pretty much acquiescing to their wife's demands, right? They're still, they don't have an actual masculine core, so it's almost all performative. And the difference between that and like a scrawny dude who's masculine is that even when the mob comes at him, he doesn't acquiesce. He basically flips them off and says "fuck you." To me, there's a part of thought. There's a part of your your philosophy that can be masculine. You see what I'm saying? It could stem out from there, and I just don't see it how a man can vote for Kamala at this point. That, like, they lost. What the hell are these people talking about? Are you serious? Anyway, if you disagree, let me know. But chances are you're not going to vibe with my content in the long run, and it just is what it is. But hey, if you have an open mind, be willing to chat with you. Deuces.